Hello everyone, and welcome to what we call Telco Tech Talk. I'm here with Ruza. Ruza, she is the CTO of the Telenor Group, and I myself, Sigve Brekke, I'm the CEO of the Telenor Group. This is the sixth time we do this, Ruza, and what we are trying to do is actually to address the area of technology, but to do it in a little bit more deeper conversation than many of the other LinkedIn videos are all about. Trying to understand where is this heading and what type of opportunities do new technologies actually impose on us, both as an opportunity and as a threat. And today I'm very fortunate. We have a guest. It's Harmeen Mehta. Welcome to the talk, Harmeen. Harmeen, you are with BT, Chief Digital and Innovation Officer, but you have 25 years of deep experience in leading digital and transformation agendas. So thanks for joining us. And let me kick off with a question. We met also in Barcelona some few weeks ago at the Mobile World Congress. And it's good to be back after a couple of years now with the pandemic. But now the bus was back. So, Harmeen, what did you take away from those days that we were in Barcelona? What was on your mind when you came back?
So I think for me, Sigve, it was something to take away. I learned something about myself personally, and I learned a lot professionally. What I learned about myself personally is that these 2 years of isolation with COVID and everything, that being with 70,000-80,000 people, it didn't feel as natural as it used to 2 years back when we used to go to Barcelona. So I found myself not liking that very high crowd, but I loved the energy at Barcelona. I thought MWC this year was really special. It was great to meet a lot of people that we hadn't seen in several years. And I was actually at this dinner and the head of MWC conference, John Huffman, he was there as well, and he told me a few stats that I found very, very staggering. So he mentioned that this time was the first time in MWC that more than 50% of the partners and exhibits and the companies that were there at Barcelona, more than 50% were outside of core telecom.
Yeah.
And it's the first year. So that I thought was very telling. And I took a lot away from that because that also shows that a lot of other industries are now not only building, but have built themselves on top of what telcos offer and becoming really, really significant and part of that broader ecosystem. And as an industry and as countries and just looking at the world and economy, that was very telling for me. So it just shows the broader impact that telecom is having in many other industries as well. But the flip side of that I took away was, I think this is also a point of inflection for all of us and in telcos, because, and if I look at our own jobs and in technology and digital and all of this, it has to be much more. The conversation has to be much more than the most efficient BSS, OSS, and the most performing telcos as well on the best network that we've got in our own countries. It has to rise up to saying, what are the new use cases we can build on top of it? What is it that we can enable on top of this? And how we as a telecom industry can actually have a much deeper play in that. Because otherwise everything runs on the network that we build and provide and the services we build and provide. But everybody else will walk away with the cake, and we'll be left with the plumbing and the hardship of it. So it's also, I think, for as an industry, it was quite an inflection point, which Barcelona normally is, about what more we need to do to get much tighter into the lives of our customers, be it consumers or be it corporates.
Building on that, Ruza, because as you said, 50% of the companies that were there were not in the core telecom, and the whole Barcelona used to be only for the telecom industry. And that says a little bit about partnerships going forward, Ruza. And I know you have some views on that.
Yes, and it's very much linked as well, Harmeen, it's fair to say, with the strategy of the BT and your belief, right? You want to become the most trusted connector of the people, devices and machines, and very similar Telenor as well wants to become a trusted partner and to deliver to the customer what matters the most, connectivity. But we fully recognize and appreciate that to meet the customer needs, we do need to work with the partners, not only within the industry, but as both you and Sigve said, across the industries. So what does it take to do right when it comes to the partner, and what we need to do right there? And I know that you have a lot of experience with a partner and partnerships, and maybe you can share some views, some stories, some successes if you have with the rest of us.
Sure, and I think partnerships are very important, and for two reasons. One is that I think if we were to step back and say, are we in the telecom industry or are we in the communications industry? And if we say we're in the communication industry, then we are connecting the lives of our customers, and their lives are much more than just a mobile call or a broadband connection. And as being prime real estate in their in their homes, in their living rooms, what more can we do to bring that connectivity for them together and that communication suite for them? And how can we help them live their work or their lives better, help corporates grow, but help consumers do a lot more, as part of what they do on a daily basis. And that's where partnerships become really, really important. And large players like, whether it's Telenor or it's BT, we are there in almost every other home in the countries that we are in. So using that advantage of our connection with the customers and the very strong channels, as well as service, pieces that we've built into our companies to be able to sell not only our products, but also that of our partners. And at the same time, to leverage the partnerships for changing our industry. And as we digitize, I think this flavor of partnerships, and Ruza, we've discussed this many times, has completely changed. If you look at the hyperscalers, what they are doing and how closely we need to work with them, that has changed. At the same time, the industry as it has changed and the corporates as they are moving more to cloud has made a massive difference to their telecommunication needs and has made a massive difference into the telecommunication network itself. So the partnerships have changed that. And then if I were to take a furthermore, our competition is no longer just telcos. It's now many other companies, but at the same time, our opportunity is also way beyond core telco and in many other streams as well. So I think really using the power of partnerships is very important. I actually drive a lot of the hyperscaler and many other partnerships here for BT, and working with a lot of these partners, whether it is, AWS or Google or even ServiceNow, Dynatrace, all of these dynamic companies, the way they are building products and the way they're using agile methodologies, the cultural innovation that they've brought, as well as the technical advancements that some of their products are bringing. I think there is a lot to learn from each of these streams, and I found each one of them really, really useful. And with many of them, we're also driving joint go-to-market strategies and really building a 360-degree partnership, which is, they are leveraging us, we're leveraging them, and then we are going together for the betterment of our customers. And I think this is something that's really, really, really important, and even more important going forward as we get beyond just connecting businesses and people, and get more into connecting things and machines and a lot more.
Can I just pick up on that one? You talk about the cultural part of partnership, which I absolutely subscribe to. We need to move from treating this we used to have vendors, now we are talking about partners, which is a big difference. But let me ask you about the technology part of partnership, because when you are partnering up with companies like the Googles or the Amazons or the Microsoft of the world, they basically come in here with a scalable software platform approach, whereby companies like Telenor and also British Telecom, also a company with a long history, and we have landed with a lot of IT complexity in our business. How do we prepare ourselves from a technology point of view for those partnerships? How do we take that legacy business that we have into automation, into digitalization, into what we call a zero-touch operation? How do we do that in practice when you have not started from scratch, as some of them have, but actually have decades of legacy? What's your experience on that?
Sigve, that's a very good question, and I have to be honest and say I'm really jealous of them. That's the truth. I am jealous because all of us, we have great heritage, which we are very proud of. But I look at them and I also feel they've got an even greater future ahead of them. So I think it's us culturally also unleashing the power of what we've built and what got us here, but understanding that we need to show up differently and tackle this complexity to get us to the next step. And we've got to get far more the power of software and what it can do, and products especially, and the products and that we can create to really start solving different customer needs. I think there is a lot to learn from a lot of these companies. And the biggest thing, I use this example, I run the product school here, and I use this example often in the product school, that if you look at all of the sites all around the world and all the websites and all the apps, the simplest app or the simplest website is actually google.com. All it has is a search bar and a search button. And that has taken UI UX to a different level. And it is all the simplicity of that single, almost blank white page with just, less than 10% of the real estate used. And it is the most often used app around the world. There is something to be learned about that. And that's what we got to learn. In telecoms, we have built a large part of our own legacy ourselves, whether it's technology legacy of starting from 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, and hence being able to support the networks, then all the systems that were needed to support all of that, and then through various divestitures, acquisitions, more complexity coming in. We need to use these transformations to step back and say, how do we overly simplify our product portfolio, simplify our processes, simplify our ways of thinking, simplify how we show up for the customer, simplify how we service the customers, simplify actually how we solve every problem and not make it more complex. And telecom industry, it's the king of or the queen of, overcomplicating things. And unless we really go to the other end of the spectrum, and that's where we can learn a lot from, companies like Google, saying the power of simplicity is just immense. You can't, on a website, you can't show 5,000 plans. You can't even show 500 plans. You can't even show 50 plans. You can barely show 5. So the power of that, and also the leverage of using technology to really the power of AI, machine learning, all of that to do the hard work ourselves, to simplify the lives of the customer. I think we got to learn from a lot of these companies.
But are you back to the cultural part of this when you talk about simplification and prioritization, or are there any technology disadvantages that we have that will make it difficult for us to, for example, have a customer journey which is as smooth as the customer journey you have with some of the hyperscalers? How do we get there?
I think we've got to get there by actually, I think every transformation is actually as much about thinking and culture as it's about technology. If we had that thinking and our objective was, we want to get this done for the customer in the shortest possible steps, it's not about making things simpler. I think all our transformations are about making things simpler. From 20 steps, we'll go to 5. We will never think, can we start with 1? Is there one step that we can do? And whereas a lot of these companies that are, millennial organizations or born in the cloud companies, they will actually start from that. I mean, when Google launched Google Fi, I thought it was a great learning experience for all telcos of how simple broadband plans could be than how we've made them over the course of the years. So it is about simplifying technology. It's about taking out the legacy. It's about till we take out the legacy, using the power of digital also to create the right customer journey and the customer outcome, and camouflaging some of that legacy till we go and simplify it in the background. It's a mix of both. It is also a mix of really seeing that if we can do something in an automated manner, how can we do that also in the most simplest of ways so we can get there faster and really create a really true differentiated digital experience for the customers? I think it's a mix of both. So you got to bring the thinking into it and then build accordingly. I mean, if you look at every time we launch a new technology, 2, 3G, 4G, 5G, could be tomorrow 6G, each of those is a moment of truth for all of us to go back and say, can we overly simplify than what we had before? And very often in our industry, we end up sacrificing tomorrow for a decision for today because we want to launch something so quickly. We will build on top of the complexity we already have rather than taking the opportunity of saying, let me step back, let me do it very simply and very differently. And actually, one of the things we are working on is our consumer business. In today's day and age and the way the systems are evolving, if you look at even traditional diagrams of saying, what should architectures look like? Well, we need a CRM and we need an order manager, we need a provisioning system, blah, blah, blah. In today's world, when you've got your big data lakes and you're doing all your transaction management and that's where your AI is learning from, why do you need a CRM? Yeah. We are actually working on having a no CRM in our consumer business. And it's going to, the first time you say it, it shocks a lot of people. Of course. But somebody's got to go there and you really have to start questioning everything. Just because it's written in an architectural diagram and there is a box called CRM, we'll spend lots of time in going and finding the right CRM. But actually, in today's day and age, you don't need one.
On that point, Ruza, we actually, exactly on the point that Harmeen is talking about now, we made actually a quite tough decision 4 years ago on simplification and on taking out old technology. Maybe you should talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we actually did that even 10 years ago. We were challenging, do we need a CRM in the basic some operations, right? Where it's only a prepaid business. Do we need to stick to our legacy and our heritage, or should we look forward? And further, we as well set ourselves an ambition that in Norway, we will be the first legacy-free incumbent operator. And we sunsetted our copper network, which we learned quite a lot about what simplification really is and how we can deliver a good customer experience. But we see that no matter what we do, as you said, Harmeen, no matter how much simplification we as well do and digitalize, there is always some behaviors, legacy behaviors that are pulling us back. So it's not easy. Even though we are fully aware of the challenges, we still tend to go back and to do the things that we used to do and that we know the best. But we set, as Sigve said 4 years ago, we set a very bold ambition that by the end of 2023, we will be touch-free operation because we believe that's the only way to really deliver a good customer experience. And we have done quite a lot in that journey. But the question is, and we know that you are doing a lot in BT and in your previous jobs on the simplification and digitalization. The main question is really, how do you break that dependencies on the legacy in order to foster and accelerate both the scale and the speed of the innovation and improve the customer experience and get the full digitalization? So how do you do that in the difficult moments?
See, it's not easy and there's no shortcut, but you've got to be really consistent and really stick to your guns. And I think, I think this is where it's advantageous being a woman because we wear high heels. So I just dig my heels in and that's how I get it done. But it is, I mean, I really have I'm a big stickler for saying never put good money behind bad. And hence, one of the things that, I'm really driving with all of my business partners and all the CEOs of the various businesses that are my peers is that constantly every year you squeeze your spend on legacy and you amplify your spend on new, and you force yourself to actually start building new things only on the new. And when you start doing that, the first year is a little hard, but the second year is easier. And the third year is really easy because everybody now knows that's the norm. And you almost make it very hard for people to justify why anything needs to be done on legacy. And you use that as an advantage to really say, not just that can we make it simpler, how can we make it simplest? And if you keep challenging yourself on that, but you have to really stick at it. And this is also shows how we show up as a leadership team, and how whether it's the top board or the exco or whatever you call the top leadership team, how well they show up together and they back each other up, because this is not just my decision as a CDIO. It has to be a decision together with my business partner who run the various businesses, and we have to really be joined at the hip and be driving towards the same outcome. That's how you actually bring about growth, and that's how you actually also force yourself to go faster onto your new platforms than invest in your legacy. So you got to put your rules and guardrails and force yourself and remind yourself every morning that this is what I'm going to do.
So it's a discipline, it's a rules, and it's a high heel. So I need to get my high heels back.
And I have no chance
Absolutely.
because I'm not wearing high heels. Just now we have talked a bit on the culture challenge. We have talked about the technology challenge. Let me ask you about the competence challenge. What type of competence do you see that we currently are lacking? And what should then legacy businesses like British Telecom and Telenor, what should we be focusing on in building that competence going forward? And also, what type of competence do we need to have in-house, and where could we rely on partnerships?
I think this is a big challenge for all industries, not just the telecommunication industry, but the answer is very similar to how you get away from legacy systems or a legacy culture. It's the same on competencies as well. The new technologies and the new skills that we want to breed in, whether it's digital or product thinking, design thinking, as well as the new tech, SREs, CI/CD pipelines, all the things that we do, we've just got to get the right talent. If everybody in the company is just learning by making mistakes, we'll be very, very slow. So you almost need to get some quorum of the right talent who has been there, done that before, and then surround them with a lot of people that are the best of our own companies and understand the environment and understand what exists today, but have both an aptitude and an attitude to want to learn the new as well. And then give the framework to really build their competency as well. I mean, we run a full digital campus, which is almost like a mini university of training people up on different, of the new technologies. And that's where partnerships play a very big role. So you can't be if you are one of the big partners, you got to contribute into the digital campus. And that is, it's a precondition. And because we're not just buying technology, we are buying technology to use it for the betterment of our company. And in order to do that, we need to have the partners' skin in the game to help our people learn that technology as well. We bring the telco knowledge, they bring their platform product or technology knowledge, and you bring the two together. And I think this is where a lot of the industry partnerships have actually really worked very well for us. And we see a lot of joint skin in the game. But at the same time, there is no surrogate from people wanting to learn. I mean, if you've chosen to be in the technology industry, I mean, I love what I do. And one of the biggest reasons I love what I do is because technology reinvents itself every 3, 4, 5 years. So I get to reinvent myself every 3, 4, 5 years. And I'm very religious about every 2 or 3 years, kind of going back and doing something massive learning, whether it is, I went back and I redid my entire AI from MIT. I've gone to Howard at least 3 times and done different things that I feel when I started the first business, I didn't know how it was to run a business. I was a hardcore technologist. So I went and did that and I learned about it. But nobody can replace your own need to learn and invest in yourself. And then the company needs to create the environment that also encourages that, but gives you the platform and invests in your growth and learning as well. So you need a mix of both. And then you need a lot of the expertise from the outside. And one small pitfall that I think large companies like us always fall in, when we start with a new technology, we often start by bringing in a vendor and getting them to build the new technology. So all our people are actually working on legacy, and all the new stuff is being done outside of the company. That has to be completely flipped on its head as well. So our best people, as well as bringing in the right knowledge from outside, getting them to work on building our future. And then you offload your legacy to somebody else, which is, at least that's what I'm trying to do. We'll see whether it works or not, Sigve.
The time is running very fast here. So let me end with a little bit more future-looking question, Harmeen. Do you think that telcos have a role to play outside only being a connectivity provider? Do we have a role to play a little bit further up in the value stack? When it comes to security, for example, take one example, when it comes to edge cloud solutions, when it comes to analytics, when it comes to working more in an integrated way with verticals? Or should we keep to what we can do best? Just provide connectivity and let others take use of the product and the services? What's your view on that?
I absolutely believe that we can play a role. We just need to do it in a different way. And the reason I believe we can play a different role is because I think if I just take a step back, and I think hindsight and the past you can't change, but you should at least learn from it. It took the telecom industry to actually come up with the entire mobile networks and the concept of mobile and what mobile could do. But the telecom industry could not create an Android. And it took a disruptor thinker from outside to actually create that. Whereas all the knowledge needed for an OS inside a mobile was actually much more in the telecom industry at that time than it was outside. But why did it take an outside company to do that? The reason it did is because they looked at the problem like a customer problem to solve, took a different approach on how it could be solved, did it in a very kind of a new disruptive startup way. And if we are going to do the same and play outside the box, we got to do it in exactly the same way. We got to go and protect. It's a different breed of people. You need to be having, hiring founders and people who know how to create something from nothing, and are motivated and passionate about that. And then almost leave them alone. Act like a VC, but don't stifle them. Don't bring them into our processes where, how we procure networks and billion-dollar software and hardware is not how they should be allowed to procure. And we got to create a culture where it is more than acceptable to fail, which is fail fast and celebrate that failure, because anything that you do innovatively and when you are driving something that has never been done before, well, that by very definition means you will step outside the lines, you will try to do things differently. And if it were that easy to do, everybody would have done it. Because it's difficult, it's okay to fail. You just tried one thing that didn't work. But again, don't put good money behind bad. If you are failing, pivot fast, iterate fast, and move forward. And take your bets. What is the industries that we are working with, that we have the deepest relationship with the customers, where we understand the customer needs the most? Expand in those areas. So start with expanding on the adjacencies and the periphery, and make something big out of it. And then go to another industry rather than trying to do 10 things at a time. Pick 2 and 3, And that's a similar approach that we're trying to do. We've created a unit called Etc., which is actually full of founders and product leaders who have done that. And I see as my job description is just keep them away from the big company.
Well, on that optimistic note on the future, I think we need to end this sixth version of the CEO Tech Talk. Thank you so much, Harmeen, for giving your perspectives on this. And as we heard, it is not easy because it's not one thing. It's the set of culture, people, competence, technology, and not least being able to simplify and prioritize going forward. So I hope this was useful to views on the future of both telecom, but also on technology. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.